Last year, the Jets had an awesome regular season and then blew up in the playoffs, out in 5 games. This year, another amazing regular season, best record in the entire league, and they're soaring. To talk about what made the difference, here's Marty Biron. Marty, is it as simple as their opponent that they're facing the Blues and not the Avs this year, or is it more than that about the Jets, Marty?
Well, that's a lot to do with it. When you're facing the Colorado Avalanche and their offense, it's not just McKinnon, it's everybody. But you look at the St. Louis Blues, I feel like if you can defend against a Robert Thomas line, you're going to be all right. And you look at the first 2 games, the St. Louis Blues only generated 2 grade A chances in each of the games. Like, you're not going to be able to create enough offense in the National Hockey League if you're only creating a couple of grade A chances per game. Now, give credit to the Winnipeg Jets and the way that they're playing defensively. They're without a couple of their big, forwards in this series at the start of the series anyway, and they are tightening it up. They're playing so well defensively. They're not straying away from their game plan, and I think it makes a difference. Last year, as soon as Colorado punched them a little bit, they felt like they had to respond by doing something crazy. Now, they are not getting that punch by St. Louis, but it's a lot easier to stick to the game plan, and you're seeing that work for the Winnipeg Jets right now.
All right, last year, Connor Hellebuyck had a brutal playoff run. He gave up at least 4 goals in all 5 of his games. Now he's only given up 4 goals total to the first 2 games, and both of them are wins. Last year, he said after the series, didn't actually feel like I played that badly. We know he's got the physical skills. He's going to win the Vezina this year. How much of a factor is his mental resiliency in his ability to make him special?
It's been huge. It's been huge in his career, right? From the get-go all the way to where he is now, one of the best in the National Hockey League. But you know what? After the first game in this series against the St. Louis Blues, some would have questioned, well, how is Connor Hellebuyck going to respond in game 2? He didn't have the best of game in game 1, and he won the game. Just like he didn't have the best of game last year against Colorado in game 1 and still won that just to lose 4 straight after. And I felt like in game 2, although he wasn't asked to make a ton of big saves, he looked much more comfortable. He looked much more in position. In game 1, a couple of times he's crooked. He's deep in the net. He's off his angle. There was none of that in game 2. And I think that's all about the reset mentally. Being able to put a bad game behind you and look forward to what's next. Even playing a bad period and looking at, okay, there's 1 more period to go. There's maybe 2 periods to go. That's what I have to focus on. And I think this has been the key for Connor Hellebuyck. He's a big goaltender. He's sound technically. His position is always really, really good. In game 1, it wasn't all perfect. He turned around and played really well, despite having only facing 2 grade A chances. I think that there's still another level for Connor Hellebuyck to go, but he doesn't have to get there right now. The Jets are up to nothing.
Speaking of having another level, Jordan Binnington, we've seen what he can do at his best. He clearly hasn't been at his best so far. What do you expect to see from him now he's on home ice?
Well, I think Jordan Binnington always responds well when there's a lot of pressure on him, and down to nothing, there's a lot of pressure on Jordan Binnington. Here's the thing, Gino. When you look at Binnington, they say Jordan Winnington, right? He's always stepping up in the big games. Let's just say in a 7-game series, the big games are game 5, 6, and 7. Well, he's 10-2 in his career in game 5, 6, and 7. The problem for Jordan Binnington is he's 12-18 in his career in game 1 through 4. And after winning the Stanley Cup, what did Binnington do in the playoffs? He went 0-9 in his next 2 playoff years. Like, that is big. Like, if you cannot get wins in games 1 through 4, you're not going to be able to get to game 5, 6, 7 and have that aura that I am up for big games. I'm Jordan Binnington, game 7, gold medal game at the Four Nations Cup. Like, these are all, big moments. But Jordan Binnington hasn't gone to those big moments because he can't put it together in the first 4 games. And this is where the Winnipeg Jets have to continue to push on Jordan Binnington. You don't want to give life to the St. Louis Blues and Binnington and say, well, maybe we'll roll the dice in game 6 and 7. No, you have to do it right now. Game 3 and 4 are huge because you want to put Binnington and the Blues away right from the get-go.
All right, change of venue now. You played in some amazing buildings during your career. At home when you had a crazy crowd behind you, on the road when it was a really hostile environment. So far, the Jets 2-0 in the crazy whiteout crowd of Winnipeg. Tonight, it's going to be an entirely different situation for them. What's that like? How do you think that affects the Jets tonight?
I actually loved playing on the road. I remember playing, in Pittsburgh with the Flyers, or in Washington, even in Montreal. Look, we beat Montreal in 5 games. Game 5 was in Montreal. 20,000 people were chanting my name. I think that the 19,000 that are going to be in St. Louis are going to be chanting Hellebuyck's name, and he's going to have that little smirk in his, underneath his mask, saying, "Hey, that's good. Keep bringing it on. Like, I know you want to get me off my game because I am that important." Like, to me, there's a comfort from playing at home, having your energy from your fans, but that's more as a team. When you're on the road, it's singled out. Like, you're going to have Scheifele being, kind of booed. You're going to have Connor being booed. You're going to have Hellebuyck being booed. Those three players especially can use that energy internally and turn it into positive. I love playing on the road. Maybe I was just weird that way, but get me in the most hostile environment, and I'm going to be like stepping up my game because I loved it so much.
Something else that comes with road games is the other team then gets to match the lines. They get last change. Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor combined for 9 points, including both game-winning goals to the first 2 games. But now the Blues get last change on home ice. How do you see that playing out?
Well, I think this is going to be huge. Obviously, the St. Louis Blues and Jim Montgomery believe that they're only one play away in each game from winning. Well, maybe having the last change, having the matchup to be able to counter Scheifele and Kyle Connor in the matchups is going to be huge. But I still think that for the Blues, the most important part is trying to free Robert Thomas and put him in situations where it's advantageous for him. So I think this is where the last change is going to work in this matchup in St. Louis. It's not so much about who do you play against Scheifele and Kyle Connor. It's about how can you free Robert Thomas and his line and get him in different situations, offensive zone faceoffs, maybe against a third line, against a fourth line. I think this is going to be huge, and everybody on the Jets are going to have to be really paying attention to how the matchups are going to be and the rhythm's going to be, because Scotty Arniel, I had him as an assistant coach in Buffalo years and years ago, but he's really quick at changing on the fly, letting the guys know, hey, as soon as the puck's out of the zone, we're changing. Everybody's going to have to be really on high alert when it comes to the quick changes to get the matchups.
All right, the atmosphere is going to be crazy. The Jets may be tempted to keep on hitting everything in sight like they did in the first 2 games, but consider this. The Blues have scored 4 goals in these playoffs. 3 have come on the power play, so staying out of the box is going to be critical tonight.